What do you pray?
It's 11:38, and we now welcome to the program Awqaf South Africa, Zeinoul Abedien Cajee, and we are also going to be joined by attorney Rumana Mahomed. We're going to be talking about an amazing webinar on Islamic wills, and it's targeted at women. So let's hear from Zeinoul. How and why did this come about? And inshallah, what can we as women glean from something as valuable as this? Zeinoul Cajee, Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program, and always a great pleasure to have you on the show.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sister Julie, and always a pleasure to be with you as well on your programs, and thank you for having me. Yes, this is an amazing week. Actually, it's called National Wills Week. It's a whole legal thing in South Africa, where the legal profession has earmarked this week as a Wills Week. We basically looked at it also. We have been, as you are aware, we have been sort of propagating the idea of Sharia Islamic wills in the past as well. We've had a number of seminars countrywide, Durban, Cape Town, Johannesburg, and we've had a number of people attending those seminars. And now, unfortunately, the seminar route is slightly closed, so we on to webinars. Yes, we had one program on Monday. So the World's Week is 26th of October to 30th of October. So we had one on Monday, and we had Mufti Ahmad Suleiman, we had attorney Arshad Jogi, and of course, we had myself actually from Awqaf to speak about the different aspects. So we also thought that actually it was initiated by some of our sisters as well, and Rumana is one of them as well, that we also focus on women and get women experts who know the topic of wills from a South African aspect, and Rumana is one of those experts on South African wills. And then we were also searching for women who are experts in Sharia estate planning. And we found this sister from Malaysia. She's an associate professor, Associate Professor Aisha Muniza. She has very willingly made herself available at 1:30 a.m. Saturday morning, which is our Friday night, 7:30 p.m., which is when we're going to be hosting this program. And then there's Sister Shamsia from Singapore. She's well acquainted with Awqaf South Africa, and we are well acquainted with her and the organizations that she's been involved with. She is quite an expert on Waqf as well, having worked on several Waqf projects in Singapore and Malaysia. So we have some outstanding women. And of course, our moderators will be women as well, some young Muslimas, if I may say. So Naima Hussein, and then there's Dineo Kambule, who's actually, I don't like to even use the words revert to Islam and so forth, but she embraced Islam while she was in America, and she's a young Muslimah, and she's also she's an educator and a poet. So, it'll be interesting to see this whole line of people.
Absolutely. Zeinoul, you've tantalized our taste buds. I mean, really, people who weren't even thinking of perhaps joining the webinar will most certainly do so. I certainly am going to do so on Friday, inshallah. But why the need for targeting something like this, very especially for women? Is there a space for our women to get involved in this? We live in a very patriarchal society, and alhamdulillah, I suppose this is one of the reasons why Awqaf and other like-minded people want to break that stereotyping. But are we ready? Are we ready to go this route?
Yes, I think so. If one looks at one of the very first wills, probably in South Africa, was that of Sarah van den Kaap, a woman.
Yes.
She bequeathed the first Waqf in South Africa. And then you've got many other examples of women. And women rightfully have their own wealth and their own property rights, in their own right. So, in fact, there's something which, that women are not responsible for their maintenance. So they do acquire a substantial amount of wealth. Some of them, of course, not all, but many of our women probably don't even know what to do with their wealth. So we do find many women are very charitable. So why not utilize the whole estate planning mechanism to channel some of your wealth to needy causes? You are doing it in your lifetime. After you pass on and leave some through a Waqf or through your will. And there are lots of advantages to that, which I'm sure Sister Rumana will speak about as well.
Absolutely. So, yes, I see she's just joined us now. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the program, Rumana Mahomed. You are an attorney, and we're very pleased to have you on the show. And let's get right to the heart of the matter. What will you focus on during this presentation, or your presentation specifically?
Shukran, Julie. It's lovely being on this program. Thank you for having me. And I must say I'm very honored to be part of the Awqaf program this Friday. I think that there's a lot that we are going to share. There's going to be a lot of exchanges and a lot of interesting points coming up. What I'm going to focus on is the importance of a will, the process of winding up the estate. So the importance of the will, just in terms of in terms of South African law, what are some of the issues that arise, which a will, in a sense, reduces. So I always say a will doesn't remove chaos. It merely, what it does is it reduces the chaos, and that's what I want to focus on. Okay. I want to also focus, I'm going to focus a little bit very briefly on the process of winding up an estate, because I think a lot of people don't understand what that process entails and how it links up to having a will. And then I'm going to focus on the challenges that arise from either not having a will or having a very sort of a standard will that doesn't quite speak to the context of one's life. So yes, I always say it's important to have a will. I'd rather my clients have a will than not have a will, but it's also very important that your will must speak to your circumstances. If you are in a polygamous marriage, your will, or even your husband's will, must speak to that circumstance.
Now, what about to both you and to Zeinoul? What about, I alluded to the fact that we are living in a very patriarchal society. I hope and pray, inshallah, going forward, that this is going to start changing. It probably is changing with people like Zeinoul behind Awqaf and other such organizations. That's making our brothers start looking at issues and start thinking differently. But what about those men who will not allow their wives and their daughters and their sisters to even start thinking along these lines? Zeinoul, let's go with you first.
I think it's very important that we create this awareness all the time. I think it's got to come out into the forefront, wherever there's opportunities to bring it out. I think as far as men are concerned, in terms of the Waqf law, for example, one is able to provide for men and women equally, and during your lifetime, you can dispose of your wealth through a Waqf to equally to benefit all your children and your spouses or whoever they may be, in a very equitable way. And justice and other is one of the cornerstones of Islam. And that has to be embedded in your thinking and in your will and, whatever you do, and especially in your wealth distribution. So historically, the Waqf system played a major role in equal distribution. So what we're not doing today is we're not looking at that side of distribution. And I think many of our Islamic scholars, the great Imams, Imam Shafi and Imam Hanafi and so forth, they specifically alluded to the fact that, and the Qadis that were judging these waqfs over centuries made it very clear that a waqf that is made that has unequal distribution is actually not valid. That distribution is not valid because the injustice that goes on. But now, when it comes to the issue about the Quranic distribution, that's a different story altogether, and I wouldn't want to go into that. But
Okay.
As far as the waqf is concerned, that's quite clear.
All right. Let's go to Rumana now. Your thoughts to the same question, and also, even though we're saying that this is a webinar focused at women, and we're having women experts that is chairing this webinar, it's not closed off to our brothers and our fathers, is it?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This webinar, for me, is about raising the issues for women by women. But women are a significant part of our society, as they always have been. And for that reason, it's critical for the fathers and the brothers and the uncles who are technically what, if you look at traditional interpretation, are defined as the qawamun of our society. And if that is the case, then it's critical for them to be present and listening in. In terms of the question you raised earlier, I just think that awareness, education, and empowerment is critical on these topics. When we as women speak, we inspire. In fact, sometimes even if we're not speaking if we're not speaking well, it also has the inspiration to some people to go out there and do it better, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But the fact that we speak inspires. And I think that we are facing a lot of challenges, and we are also we also have a very empowered younger generation who have experienced and lived through the challenges that their mothers and their grandmothers have had to endure. And these young women are educating themselves, they are more career focused, they are building wealth for themselves. So there's definitely a shift. There's definitely a shift where women are, in a sense, pushing back and saying that we're not prepared to accept the status quo, that it's not egalitarian, it's not hearing our voice, and we have a strong voice. And if Allah and the Prophet ﷺ gave equal value to these voices, then we want that equal space, we want that equal value, and I think that that the women today are very much focused on these things, and I definitely sense empowerment, more education, more knowledge, more questions. Very often, and I find that when husbands or fathers or brothers don't manage their affairs properly, it has a ripple effect on everybody else, and eventually, like with any community or any society faced by challenges, there is going to be, in a sense, a resurrection. Each family member in that family who's experiencing a challenge is going to be very uncomfortable with the oppression. I'm using that word loosely, but ultimately that's what it is.
Okay, Zeinoul, you said that you started off on Monday with National World's Week. What was covered up to now, and how's it going to tie in with tomorrow's webinar?
Well, essentially, it's a similar kind of program because we still talk about the issues that Rumana spoke about, the South African scenario, the worlds in South Africa, the pitfalls to avoid. There are lots of challenges with just drawing up a proper will. So those kind of issues, the issue about the connotation and the how the master reacts to receiving an Islamic world. So all those kind of things which many people are not aware about.
Can I stop you there? Can I ask, what are the challenges when the master is presented with an Islamic world? Are you suggesting that that creates a problem of some sort? And is that one of the reasons why we're having this National Worlds Week?
No, I think that some people perhaps generally Islamic worlds are accepted, but I think the challenge is when they are not properly executed or properly drafted, where speeches are not done properly. There's certain rules and regulations, and I think that's where Rumana's expertise comes in.
And let's have her respond to that question as well from a legal point of view. Rumana, over to you.
So we have this concept. We're very fortunate in South Africa to have this concept of freedom of testation. Freedom of testation means that you can stipulate in your will freely and voluntarily whatever you want to. Okay, so fine, we had wonderful things happening. A particular person will bequeath their entire estate, all their wealth, to the SPCA, or and we're hoping to organizations like
Awqaf. Inshallah.
But the thing is that with this freedom of testation, so we've got this concept of freedom of testation. Our religious laws, our Muslim religious laws, are not recognized in South Africa, and yet with this freedom of testation, we are allowed to say that our estate should evolve in terms of Sharia law. And that on that basis, because of that freedom of testation, the Master of the High Court has no issue with our wills.
Wow. Okay,
the only requirements are that there's the Wills Act. The Wills Act specifies what formalities need to be complied with in terms of how it ought to be signed, by whom, and things like that. So very cursory sort of formalities. And as long as our wills comply with those cursory formalities, whatever we say within those pages, the Master is obliged to give effect to.
I think when one talks about preparing a will, and we talk about estate planning, it can be very off-putting to a lot of people. It can be very intimidating because you're not quite sure if you are really doing the correct thing. Are you serving all of your family members well enough when you're looking at estate planning and at wills? Is this webinar going to address all of that? Rumana.
I think what this webinar is going to do is encourage people, encourage the participants to become a little bolder and less afraid to do that. Humans have a habit of dying. That's our reality. And we always have this assumption, even with this pandemic around us, that we will be the last person to die.
Absolutely.
I'm hoping, I think we are hoping that we can start encouraging this reality as a discussion topic in families, so that it becomes something that's part and parcel of our families. That's what estate planning is, isn't it? It's about fast forwarding to date of death as if you died today, and what should be the consequences? How are we going to reduce the complications? And I think we are hoping that we will sort of take a lot of that fear and ambivalence or insecurity away, and kind of just encourage people to start exploring these issues and managing their affairs. Look, I mean, if you look at the very foundation principles, Quranic instructions, the Prophet's Sunnah, his Hadith, there's a huge emphasis on estate planning. There's a huge emphasis on us managing our affairs for the next generation, leaving a legacy, securing the future. So if we are shying away from that, then technically we're not fulfilling our mandate on that.
Yeah. So
okay, I'll come to you in a minute, Zeinoul. How do we sign up for this webinar?
Okay, I think
Is that you?
You can
Okay.
actually, first of all, you can go onto our website and you get all the links there. It's open to everyone, as you mentioned earlier, to mothers, brothers, fathers, sisters, everybody, Muslim, non-Muslim, anybody is welcome. It's free of charge. So you just need to go onto a website and click on the registration links, and you can get registered, and that's it. So there is limited capacity. So the sooner you register, the better. So it's basically as simple as that. So you need to get onto our website, which is www.awqafsa.org.za. And
Inshallah.
yeah.
Okay, Rumana, final words from you. We're wrapping up now.
I think for those who don't have access to Zoom or certain links, the program will be live streamed on Facebook. So for all the Facebook people, Facebook-friendly people, that's also an option. There will be opportunity for questions and answers. So on the little sort of links, if you are on the webinar, and I think that's going to sort of create a lot of value in these discussions, because we can sort of talk about what the law says, but the questions and answers indicate the lived realities of people. And those are the issues we need to deal with. How do we make the law adaptable to, or how there must be synergy between the laws and the lived realities. Otherwise, Islam becomes irrelevant, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So for me, I think that's going to be a very valuable thing. I'd like to encourage as many people to please log on. Yes, there are lots of wills, seminars, etc. happening this week because of all this hype. And yes, we'll probably have a lot more going forward. But what makes this particular webinar unique is the panel. I'm actually very excited to be on such an esteemed panel. I think my shares just went up because
okay, we've just had someone call in. I think it's Hajra Muqaddam. She says she's really looking forward to this, and I'm sure hundreds of thousands of other people. We're going to have to wrap up. Zeinoul, what I do need to say to you is that you guys at Awqaf truly are pulling out all the stops, not only with National World's Week, but just the amazing offerings you have for our community. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you guys for your efforts. What else can we look forward to after World's Week?
Well, I can't tell you but things do come up all the time, and it's for us to look at what's going on in the community and what are the needs, and inshallah, we just watch the space all the time.
Absolutely, you guys are very relevant, and I commend you for that. Rumana and Zeinoul, shukran very much. I know it's going to be really very, very successful, and we look forward to your future offerings. Shukran for being with us on the show. Assalamu alaikum to you.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi, and shukran for this opportunity.
My pleasure. It's exactly 12:01. Next on the show, we have Rihanna Musaji to talk about her new initiative in the area she lives in. It may sound something small, but I think that if we replicate her idea in all the areas in our beautiful country, then alhamdulillah, just imagine what an impact it will have. So stay tuned. We're going to be joined by Rihanna Musaji in a minute or two.